Hello BookTube, I'm here with a tag for Tag Tuesday, but this is also an announcement video because the tag is the Faulkner in August 2021 tag as created by Alan of Big Hard Books and Classics, and it's to the questions are all kind of inspired by Faulkner novels, although they're not about Faulkner, and you don't need to know any Faulkner to do this tag, to take part in this. But it's a great excuse to talk about what's coming in August, which is a reading of Sanctuary by William Faulkner. And this is the third year that we've read a Faulkner book in August. And the hosts this year are Alan of Big Hard Books and Classics, Brian of Bookish, who were the original two hosts, Una and Krypto of Codex Cantina, who kind of joined in last year. And then the new hosts this year are Noah of Everyone Who Reads This Must Converse, and myself. And we'd all love you to join us in reading Sanctuary. We'll all be putting out videos of various sorts over the course of the month. We'll read it in 4 chunks. There's already a large and vibrant Voxer group of people who are getting stuck into anticipating taking part in this read along. So the invitation is there. Just let us know if you want to take part. Now, Alan's done some lovely prompts, and they are in the numbers of these prompts are in a mixed up order, which if you know a bit about Faulkner, you will understand the joke, okay? But I won't spoil it for you by telling you. You can put in the comments if you get it. Okay, so we start with number 3, and prompt number 3 is Yoknapatawpha County. That's the fictional county in the American South where Faulkner set most of his books. And the question is, what county do you live in, and what does its name mean? And if you don't live in a country that has counties, that sort of size of area. So the county I live in is Sussex. And Sussex was named after the South Saxons. So it was the land of the South Saxons. And the South Saxons moved and settled in this part of England in the 5th century. And the kingdom of the South Saxons, or Sussex as it came to be known, was one of the Anglo-Saxon heptarchy, the 7 kingdoms that made up Anglo-Saxon England in the sort of 6th, 7th, 8th century. And then gradually a few of them kind of got bigger and took over. So Wessex and Mercia sort of, pushed various others out, and Sussex was taken over by Wessex. There we go. That was probably more detail than you wanted, but it fascinates me. So question number 1 is Benjy in The Sound and the Fury is the ultimate unreliable narrator. Name another. Your favourite unreliable narrator, or certainly one that you like. Well, the one I'm going to pick is Life of Pi by Jan Martel. And so the boy who is shipwrecked and he's on this raft with a tiger. I think, that's a good clue that this is not a totally realistic story that he's telling us, and yet it feels very real as you're reading it. And so, yeah, it's an interesting, moving, poignant book that just came back into my head recently for various reasons, and was reminded that it's a lovely, unreliable narration. Oh, in the background, I can see Alfred. Are you telling me the food's ready?
The first pizza has gone in the oven about 5 minutes ago, so it'll be out in about 5 minutes.
Okay,
so
well, I'll make this.
Wrap up your video and then.
I'll make this quick then. I'm going to edit that out. It's fun. So question number 4 is As I Lay Dying, another Faulkner book. Yeah, tell us about a book that draws on death or bereavement. Well, there's quite a bit of choice for this, isn't there? Books about death and bereavement are a very interesting topic, I think. It brings out good things in an author sometimes to write about those kind of emotions. My pick is La Rose by Louise Erdrich. That was the first Louise Erdrich novel I read, and I'm so glad I did. And it's the story is about there's an accidental death of a child, but there's kind of 2 families involved, and the novel is about how they deal with that death and their feelings of responsibility or blame, or yeah, really a very, very good book, and it drew me into Louise Erdrich. So next, so I get so confused with these numbers, but this one is question 2. And this is drawn from The Sound and the Fury. And Jason the Fourth in The Sound and the Fury is the ultimate unlikable character. He really is. He's dreadful. He's awful. Very few redeeming features. So name another villain or unlikable character from a book. The one I've picked is the narrator in Senselessness by Horacio Castellanos Moya. And this man, he's a writer. He's a very heavy drinker, an alcoholic, I guess you'd say. I was going to say a womanizer, but, you know, worse than that. He's positively sort of sex obsessed in a very unappealing way. And the book is about the impact on him of taking a job editing the record of oral testimony of peasants in a Central American country who had experienced sort of massacre and oppression and torture, kind of effectively by government forces. It's one of those books that, like, when you finish reading it, you just know that you may not have altogether enjoyed it, but it's really going to stick in your mind. It must be about 2-3 years since I read it, and it's really stuck in mind, I'll tell you. Prompt number 6 is based on Light in August. Lovely book, that one. Lovely Faulkner. It was the first one that I did for Faulkner in August. That was why it was started in August, I guess. And so the prompt is to name a book that made you furious or describes that kind of intensity of emotion. And the book I've chosen is Unspeakable, the story of Junius Wilson, which is a non-fiction book by Susan Birch and Hannah Joyner, as in Hannah's Books, which I read with a group of other booktubers last year, I think. And it is a book that makes you furious because it's just the sense of outrage that this could have happened to a person. It's about a young black deaf teenager who is accused of something, probably wrongly, and basically ends up incarcerated in a well, how to describe it? It functions like a prison, but it was some sort of asylum or fury is the emotion that you feel when you read what happened to Junius Wilson. It's also a very, very well written book of non-fiction that I would heartily recommend. And we were all talking about it a while ago, and it's good to bring it back because there'll be a fresh generation of booktubers who haven't read it, haven't heard about it. Question 4A. Absalom. So there's a Faulkner book, Absalom. Okay, Absalom was a son of David, the biblical king, who rebelled against his father. So name a story that is either about a rebellious or a biblical character. And I picked a biblical one. And the book I picked is Quarantine by Jim Crace. And I was reminded of this book because Freddie, the Sluggish Reader, just read it and he rated it really quite low. Now, I think it's a rather brilliant book, though I could understand why someone might not enjoy reading it. But the premise of the book is that we're with a group of people, one of whom is Jesus, and it's when he's having his 40 days in the wilderness, in the desert, fasting and to be tempted and so on. it's not a literal retelling of the gospel story about that. It's a much more complex and really interesting novel. Yeah. So I understand it wouldn't be for everyone, but if you're interested in ideas and you don't mind something that's a little experimental and a bit brutal, it's well worth reading. And the final prompt, number 5, is what's your favourite Faulkner novel and why? And my favourite Faulkner novel is The Sound and the Fury. It's the one we did last year for Faulkner in August. It's an absolutely extraordinary modernist novel that I would never have read, I think, if it hadn't been for Faulkner in August introducing me to Faulkner in a different way, and making me understand what he has to say about the American South and his background in the American South, and to not think of him as one of those sort of dead white American writers that I don't need to read. I do need to read him, and The Sound and the Fury is the book that has epitomised that for me so far. There we go, that's all the prompts. Alan added a sort of a bonus question, which is what's the name of Faulkner's nanny and why is this significant? Now, if I answer that here, that spoils it for you, so I won't. And if you'd like to answer that question and put that in the comments, feel free. And do join us for Faulkner in August if you can.